Okay, looks like we're live. So a few seconds early, but that's all right. All right, 7:59 here. So good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Monday live stream. My name is Rich Charpentier, and I'm the channel host if you're new here. And we do a lot of drone talk here, sometimes some mobile tech talk. And today we're going to be talking about drones and something that's been coming up a lot more for me lately, which is raw land sites. So I've been getting a lot more inquiries lately, and sometimes raw land sites are really easy to deal with. If you're doing it for realtors, they want some shots of the land. If you're doing it for private property owners, sometimes they might want a two-dimensional model or a 360 image so they can see the whole property. And so 9 times out of 10, most people are going to say to themselves, well, raw land site, that's cake. That's real easy. I've got points of reference and I can just get in there and fly it. But sometimes it's not so easy, especially in areas that are undeveloped. So good morning to everyone who's joined up so far. And don't worry, I'm not getting far ahead of you or anything, just doing the intro to the channel. So these Monday morning live streams have been a lot of fun, by the way. I do enjoy doing them. And so I hope you guys enjoy them too. As always, you can say something in the chat window, or you can drop a comment afterward, but I always like to hear back from folks. So if you've got some topics you're interested in, or if you'd like more information on any of the topics that we do, just let me know and we'll see what we can do about it. So over the weekend, I've spent some time on some drone work. We actually canceled one of our raw land sites for the weekend. So we were going to be taking a ride on Saturday. But as you know, out here in the West, we have had a lot of smoke coming from the California fires, and it's actually impacting the quality of the imagery you can produce when you've got this much smoke in the air. So strange hazes all day long. Some of the days felt more overcast than a New England winter day. So we'll be rescheduling that client, and we've got another client that we've got to schedule, but we've got some questions about it. So before we look at anything drone-wise or anything, when we start talking about raw land sites, for instance, the property that we're going to have to go visit later, I got a contact from a property owner who bought a property sight unseen. It's 20-something acres. They want to subdivide it, and they were wondering if we could check for some other items for them as well. So one of their main jobs apparently is flipping land. And so first questions that I always ask, I'd like an address for the raw land site, but oftentimes there might not be an accurate address associated with that raw land site. So I also ask for the tax parcels. So for the first part of this video today, we're not looking at the drone at all. I want to show you a couple of tools that you might not have available to you, but you might have similar tools available to you. So we're going to be doing some things on the web first. So the client that got in touch and bought this property sight unseen wants us to go fly it, had a couple specific things that he was looking for. The property is in Coconino County. So I'm just pulling up the Coconino County maps.arcgis. So in addition to having your drone and the ability to fly your drone most anywhere that you're in legitimate airspace, you're going to need to know about some other tools. So it's not just going to be Ground Station Pro here. You're going to need to know about things like tax maps, so tax parcel maps. And in the case of the gentleman who got in touch with us, the property was purchased in Coconino County. So that's where Flagstaff, Arizona is. That's also where Williams is. So that's when you go into Williams and head north, you find yourself at the Grand Canyon. And on this particular property, it's on the way to the Grand Canyon. It looks like kind of scrubland. Now, you might not have the same thing you're looking at here. So this is the Coconino County tax map viewer. Wherever you live, you might have a different one. Maybe your county doesn't even have this service. Good morning, Corey. How are you doing today? Good to see you on channel here. So anyways, what was I thinking here? Yeah. So you might not have the same tax map viewers. Now, a lot of the work that we do is in Yavapai County. So if I do Yavapai, if you can't tell, I use these regularly. So the Coconino one versus the Yavapai one, they are a little different. So not only do you need to get this information into your into your Ground Station Pro or other flight app, you need to learn how to navigate these interactive county maps. So that's a big part of doing things. So when people first get in touch with me and they say, how much is do a raw land site? I get back to them without a price. And I say to them, I need to know more. I need the address. If you have the parcel number, I would like that as well. Anything that you can give me so that I know how we're going to gain access to this location. In the case of the Williams area and Coconino County, this is more than an hour drive one way for me. And they did, as a matter of fact, get me the parcel number, 0010621. So on the Coconino one, we've got this little search bar over here on the left-hand side. I'm going to hit search on that, and it is bringing me right into it. The property owner also did happen to give me the street address, 2609 East Coconino Trail, so that's all good. I'm not worried about having his information out there, anything on this, because this is the middle of nowhere, raw land site with a lot of dirt road driving. So this is going to be an interesting location. As you can see on this map, it actually showed the blocked out area. So here is that parcel, and we can find out more about that parcel when we click on it. We can get some information out of it. So I regularly will go in and I will check property owner's name. I'll go through just all the information about it to make sure I'm working on behalf of the right person who actually does own that piece of property. I don't want to be out flying a private piece of land where people don't want me around. So there we go. We've got our information on it, and I'm going to go ahead and close that now. So in the case of Ground Station Pro, I know that I would like to fly this particular rectangle. It's a very boring block, but this is where I would like to be doing my flight. So what do I do? How do I figure this out? How do I get the information so that I can pop that into Ground Station Pro, maybe for a two-dimensional model, maybe for plotting out some still photo waypoints. So what I can do on this particular tax map is if I just click somewhere, when I click into that, I get some of the information about that property. One of the pieces of information that I can get from that is actually the GPS coordinates. So let's see here. And of course, it's not going to work right for me today. Oh, I've been using this multiple times. Oh, there I go. When I click, I go down to this and I add a marker. See, I forgot. Each of these things has a different way of doing it. So once I clicked an area down at the bottom right-hand corner, I could get the marker. And take a look at this. It's got latitude and longitude in decimal, which is exactly what I need for Ground Station Pro. That's what it prefers. So I can mark out these areas for myself. Let's go up to this upper corner, and I usually do it inside of the boundary area. I add a second marker there, and then we're going to go add a third marker and a fourth marker. Let's get all these in there. And actually, I would like to do one right to the center here as well. So add that marker, and I'm going to put one up in the center just as a reminder to myself that I'd like to do a 360 in there afterward. So I've just marked out a couple areas. They're not on Ground Station Pro yet, but I do have my reference information to put it into Ground Station Pro now. So let's see. Good morning, Michael. How are you doing? And then we got Corey here. I asked the property owner agent to send me a text email that says I have permission, just as a cover here. Yep. Corey, I've got that on my iPhone. I always do a separate thing of notes. So I have the realtor's information, website, email address, phone number with me, the property owner's information, and the property owner's phone number. In the case of this location in Coconino County, most likely there's not going to be cell service. One other interesting thing in these areas is the fact that a lot of people who are hunting in northern New Hampshire will bring a trailer out for the weekend. They'll usually use BLM land or Forest Service land. But in these particular areas where there's a lot of raw land, the owners aren't there, you will find trailers just parked out on the properties. In the case of the last Google satellite map for this location, there are two trailers parked on this property down near the center marker, and then there's another one over here. So that was one of the other things the property owner wanted to know. are those trailers gone since the sale occurred to him? So that's going to be one of the things when we fly there. We're going to see, are the trailers still there? Now, part of the reason things got pushed out this weekend, when I go out onto the front patio and I look to the north, I can see Bill Williams Mountain, Mingus Mountain, several other smaller mountains. And since we've had all of this smoke from the California fires, I can still see Mingus Mountain because it's just a couple miles away, but everything to the north is completely washed out. Where this landowner owns this property, they should have a great view of the San Francisco peaks, so the 12,000-foot mountain over in Flagstaff. And I guarantee you there's no visibility to that. Here in Prescott, I can normally get a great view of those peaks all the way up in Flagstaff, but you can't see anything right now. So showcasing this property for a real estate listing, we're going to show them this ground, and then we're going to show them this grayed out sky. That's part of the reason why our timing has changed on this particular one. So there we go. So now on the interactive tax map, so I'm switching over to Yavapai County now because I have another flight, and when I'm done with this video, I'm actually calling the realtor this morning because we ran into a slight problem. I can absolutely fly the location. It's just whether or not I can gain access to the location. So what I'm going to do in here over on the right side, so as you see, there is a big difference between the parcel viewer in Coconino County and the parcel viewer in Yavapai County. Sorry about that. I had to remember which one I was on here. All right, so I am going to look up a parcel number. So I'm always looking for those parcel numbers if possible. 106-18067N. And let's do a search on that one. And that's going to zoom me right on in, and that's exactly where I needed it to be. So there are two lots for sale. This one, the 106-18067N, and the one directly to the east of it. And let's go ahead and pull that one up too. So that one's going to be 13 and 034K. And we'll see that one outlined. So there's the outline of this one. Now, similar to what I just showed you on the Coconino tax map, I can put markers on here as well, giving myself information about my boundary points for when I'm doing the flight. As you can see around this, off to the left on the west-hand side, this green area is part of a golf course. It's part of the Prescott Lakes Golf Course. And we've got the Prescott Lakes Parkway right to the west of that. Very nice road. No pull-offs, no areas to park. No access into these two parcels. These two parcels are kind of an island. Not only that, but they're also the height of land. So we went out the other day to take a look at this, and we have some major new construction to the north. So what we're seeing here right now in this area, Stacy Drive, Don Drive, and then a couple other little buildings, all of this is under construction. Most of those little housing structures have been bulldozed, and they're building a new apartment complex in here, and there's no notable right-of-way access. I'll show you that after. In the meantime, let's just take a quicker look at, or a longer look, I should say, at these corners. So my interest when I'm out doing these raw land sites for clients, I'm doing a 360 for them now, at least one, sometimes more than one, and we're setting them up for their MLS listings. So no extra advertising information in the 360s or anything, just the 360. And we're shooting that with the drone. Then we're also doing cardinal directions and a couple of extra waypoints. Now, how do we get those waypoints onto this one? So this one is different than the last one. If I click over here and I click on the little Latin long symbol, we've got three different things: WGS 84 Latin long DMS, and then we've got the decimals, which is what I would like to go for. So add coordinates. And now that I've hit add coordinates, if I go to one of these corners, look at that, 34.586872 or 27, and then negative 1112 dot. You get the idea. So I can actually go through, mark out some corners for myself of areas that I would most likely like to be shooting from. Now, one of the things I'm going to keep in mind over here is our proximity to the golf course and time of day. With the golfers out there, I'm going to make sure to pull it in just a little bit. With all of these different angles that we're providing for the clients, we're definitely going to get good coverage for them. and we'll get some interesting images for them. We're going to do some images lower and a little bit higher. And the proximity of this, there's Watson Lake right across the way. So you've seen a lot of stuff here on channel about Watson Lake and the great parks around here. So we've got this plot of raw land due west of Watson Lake. This is not a cheap property. So this is part of the Prescott Lakes community and along the Prescott Lake Parkway. So there are some expensive houses in here. There's, developments at a premium in this area. So the fact that there's this raw open piece of land, number one, is really astounding to me, especially in that location. But number two is the fact that I need to have a conversation with the realtor, and I need to have that conversation. I'm pulling up Google Earth now. And so there is that golf course area. Okay, let's switch between the two so it just gives you an idea. So there's that golf course with that hole. So we know that we're going to be shooting in here. And the address for 1411 Prescott Lakes Parkway, and the other one's 1409, and that's right over in here. If you can't tell, there's not really an access road. We've got some dirt tracks from probably four-wheelers or something. This area right here that I'm zooming in on, this warehouse building still exists. There's the traffic circle to Watson Lake Park. So this building exists, and they still have things going on. It's a plumbing supply company. All of this in the center here is under construction with fencing all the way around. A multi-story apartment complex is going in. So we have some issues because Stacy Drive, as it was, isn't today. This is why you go and you take a look at locations if you can. If at all possible, locations are close by to you. Before you make a bid to a realtor or a private landowner, pay a site visit. You're going to save yourself some headaches in the long run. So last week we had paid a site visit. I dropped an email to the realtor. I didn't hear back from them, so they might be busy. That's why I'm going to be calling them this morning. Bottom line, this area I can't park in. This structure right over here is actually a synagogue, and it's a very pronounced signage saying members only, private property, no trespassing. And then we've got this dead end road over here. Now, taking a look on Google Earth, let's say I was able to park down here at the bottom of the hill. This is actually a very steep hill going up here. I'm going to lose visual line of sight very quickly if I'm flying from down here on what was Pam Drive, okay? So I have an interest in getting up here because just getting to this flight point is, let's see, let's switch this from miles to feet, and let's see. Let's pretend I could park here. And so, we're looking at about 1,000 feet up, and clear that, and let's close that. So at least 1,000 feet, just, flying along, plus I've got that elevation gain. I'm going to lose visual on shooting part of that property. So visual line of sight's gone. Yes, I have a visual observer as well. So the big question is, do I ask her to march across several private properties? My preference would be to have a solution from the landowner and the realtor that there is a place for us to park. Because as you can see, here we are looking at that Louise Lane right there. I keep wanting to call it Lois Lane. I don't know why. But this area is full-on construction with fences, bulldozers, cranes, you name it, it's in there. It's a very tight area, but they're building in there. So the question would be, could I park here or could I move up here? Because this is also private property. So we've got the synagogue, we've got new construction, we have a private school over here, we've got some other private businesses in here, and along Prescott Lakes Parkway, there are no opportunities to pull off onto the side of the road to do flights from there, and that would be too far at some points. So we're going to be, normally I like to have it within about 1,500 feet all the way around me in my visual line of sight. But if we were looking at flying from one of these edges, we've got 1,000 to 1,500 to 1,700 just to get into part of the property. So at points, the drone's going to be well too far away to be perfect for that. So that's going to be one of the things that I have to have a conversation with the realtor about today. But as you can see, we can easily mark these areas out for ourselves. And it's going to depend on the county and state that you live in as to what kind of tools are going to be made available to you. So I'd suggest if you're interested in this and you're thinking, yeah, we might be doing more raw land sites and new development areas, to start researching ahead of time what's available for you on those tax parcel maps and what kind of tools are being used. Because as you saw between these two, I did have to remember how to block these areas out. Now, while we're on that screen, I'm going to be looking down for a moment because I'm setting up a screen share on the iPad. So just give me one moment as I'm doing that. And there's my code for my air server, 7470. And we should see that pop up. There it is. So we're getting that on screen. I'm going to drag it out for you just a little bit more. And let's pop on into Ground Station Pro, shall we? So when we were preparing for the Coconino property, I already blocked some things out using Ground Station Pro. So we're just waiting for Ground Station Pro to finish its login. So I was prepped the other day to go up and to do that model. And the landowner's name, first name is Billy. So pleasant guy from the southeast. So there we go. I had already plotted out, as you can see, a flight path for doing a two-dimensional model for him, because we're going to do a really quick two-dimensional model in there. And then we're also going to do some still images and that 360. So he's talking about dividing this land right in half for resale afterward. So you never know when you get these private properties, these private parcels, you know, what people are doing. Some people have gotten in touch with us because they're building a new home on a parcel that they recently purchased. Some people are flipping land. You know, there's all different reasons why folks want drone pilots coming out, and they're looking for us more and more to help them out with their land needs. So I laid this one out by taking reference points. So what we had done over on this before, where we made the markers, when I actually set up the corners for this particular flight, I used the information from the markers. So if we go into this flight and let's select the bottom left corner. So, it would be nice if I put that screen up for you to see. So I have selected the bottom left corner. And if we look over in our information for that first waypoint, we have a latitude of 35.4273. And if we look on this screen, 35.4273. So I will actually set up on these tax maps, and I will have my my iPad sitting in front of me, and I will go through. And it's painful to do this, by the way. So it's, you know, it's a little annoying, it's a little time consuming, but you know that you're getting pretty darn close. So when we're looking at that, the 35.4273, if I tap into that latitude box, you'll see the pop-up here with all the different, you know, the keypad numbers, so that we can put in the latitude and longitude. When you're done with that, it's going to align it exactly where it needs to be. So when you first drop a two-dimensional waypoint mission for modeling, it's going to make a little blocked area so you can do it by feel. But when you have these parcel maps, you can get pretty much the exact corners. Now remember, we're not survey engineers. We don't have the greatest GPS accuracy. There is some deviation. So, you know, when I'm laying these out, it's normally for those still images in the 360s. It's giving myself an area where I can block myself in. Speaking of that, let's say I didn't want to do this one. Let's cancel out of there. And I'm going to go back to the main menu. So there we go. And we can add some other kind of flight, right? Well, one of the things that we can do on Ground Station Pro, if we weren't worried about doing the two-dimensional model with the grid pattern, is we could create a virtual fence for ourselves, take those corners, take those property markers, and map out a virtual fence so we can fly around in that area and disallow ourselves from flying outside of that area, so making sure that we're not going over that other private landowner's property. Why do you not use a downward angle of 90 for raw land, no buildings? You can absolutely do that, Corey. And so that's up to you when you're doing it. You know, or you could do that 70 degree. But for me, when I'm just doing the straight up raw land, it usually is pretty much straight down. One of them I did do with an angle because we were trying to make a 3D model as well as the 2D model just to show the client. But On these, yeah, shooting straight down works just fine. So I might, yeah, I did do that to myself on that one. So I see where you see the 73.2. I could set that to 90. It's not going to make too much of a difference because it's a very low resolution one. He's actually not going to be using it for anything. One of the reasons why we wanted to fly the grid just to get the whole area was because of his curiosity about this in the center where my mouse is. It's somebody's trailer on the property, but this shot could have been taken years ago. And secondly, there's the other trailer, and it looks like the little campfire ring and a couple other cool things. So these things are on his property, so that was one of the reasons why he did want the top down. So I'll probably swap that to 90, and that's something that I do in the field. I double check all of my information, and I can go in and edit this afterward. Now the second item that I did, let's zoom this out, was Coconino waypoints. So I just grabbed the corners for myself from the tax map. So I got the information and I popped those corners in. On the lower right hand side, I actually moved it up a little bit because there is a pull off in here, and you know, we're getting involved with right-of-way areas. I don't think the client is going to mind if I'm a couple feet into the property because I'm going to be shooting back toward the west from here. So in this one of the things that I did do that is of interest, you might find interesting, I'm going to hit the edit button on this one. So there are a couple of things different than some of the things that I did in my Ground Station Pro class. And in the case of this one, I'm doing a lot of manual things. So if you look over on the right-hand side and see the Coconino waypoints, it's telling me the flight time's 2 minutes and 31 seconds. Not so, because I'm going to be controlling this. I've got my flight length. So we've got a couple things going on. I can tell Ground Station Pro, for all points, there are some things I want you to do. So number one, the maximum speed that I've set for this is 20 miles per hour. But you'll notice I've got it manual selected. So when I first put the drone up in the air and start moving to fly along this flight path, as I'm giving it the throttle is when the drone will be moving. If I take my fingers off of the sticks, the drone's going to hover wherever I've got it. It's not going to automatically take itself to that first waypoint over here. So the waypoint that I just tapped on that now has the S in it. So when I lift off and I upload this mission, since I've set myself to manual, I'm going to control the speed of the flight and how quickly or slowly I get to those waypoints. Now there's a reason for that, because when I get to that bottom waypoint, I'm going to be shooting back toward the east. If I start pushing the throttle now, since I've got it on manual, I will start moving along that western border of the property. So I could get it into the center of that particular line that's 619 feet. And maybe I shoot a west to east photo right there. And then I go up to that, to the northwest corner, and maybe I'm shooting a northwest to southeast shot there. And then I move along the center line that's 1,281 feet, and somewhere in the center there, I shoot due south back toward the south part of the property. Because I'm setting Ground Station Pro to manual, it's going to be up to me to have that throttle going and place myself in locations. So I could get some additional images if I wanted to. So below that, you'll notice aircraft heading is manual. So I'm going to control the direction that the aircraft is shooting in. So I'm giving myself a little extra flexibility. I'm not building this one for repeat flights because we're not doing any time lapses with this. So instead, I'm going to use those boundaries to keep myself within the property and make my selections for the photos. The gimbal pitch on this one is going to be manual because maybe I want to shoot straight out on a low one. So maybe I'm going to have my elevation lower for a little bit. And then I'll raise my elevation, take another shot. Maybe I'll want some gimbal down tilt there to, show off more of the land. Below that, so we've got cornering set to straight because we're not worried about cornering or anything. End of mission action, return to home. As I'm flying this around and controlling the throttle for myself, when it gets back near me, I can just land it myself and tell it to stop this mission. So that is another thing we can do. And then as far as each point, so I'm now going over to each point really quick because I wanted to take a look at this. And for each point, I could go in and enable the height for each point. So I could set a specific height to be at that waypoint. So this is a lot more manual stuff going on for me for the flight, and that's okay. As we noted under all points, the aircraft heading, I can change the heading at will while I'm flying it because I put that under all points. So the aircraft heading right now is just reflecting where the aircraft is pointing before we start any of this out. And then aircraft rotation direction, if we're, if we were doing a regular mission where we were having more autonomous flight, we could actually go in and change some things up, taking away some items from all points and moving them over to that each point. So, and we're not even going to have waypoint actions on this particular one because I'm doing most of this stuff manual. So I'm also going to be taking all the shots manual, and they're all going to be in raw format as well. And then we'll do a little cleanup afterward. Look at that. I accidentally tapped another waypoint for myself. I did not mean to do that. So I can undo that and delete it. But I don't even have to worry about that because I'm not saving this particular one. So let's go ahead and don't save. So that was one of the ones that I wanted to give you a feel for. And that is for that Coconino property. So let's go ahead and close that one. And now let's take a look at that City of Prescott one really quick. So I haven't set this one up yet. Okay. I wanted to get this one up with you while you were on channel. And hello to everyone else who's joined recently. Thanks for stopping by, and I hope you're finding this one informative today and helpful. As I had said earlier in the video, if you got here later, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to ask. You can put them down in the comment section, or you can put them over into the live stream chat as well. All right, so on this one, let's move ourselves back to my area because Coconino is a good distance away. And I'm actually very familiar with this area, so I'm just scrolling myself over here. There we are down near Watson and Willow Lakes. And there's that piece of property that realtor wants me to fly right in here. So we have some of the corners up here on the map, and let me change the view so that you can see. So I just brought myself over to this area for the Prescott Lakes, and there we go. There's my Ground Station Pro. So sorry about that. I forgot to bounce the screens. So let's take a look at this one. I haven't set anything up with this one at all yet. I do know that they just want some still photos from up above, and there's probably going to be some really nice views since Watson Lake is right over to the east, and they do have height of land here, so they might have some good views from this property. Now, what I'm going to need to do in the case of this one, I'm not doing a grid pattern for them. They don't want a two-dimensional model. They just want some shots of the property. So pretty straightforward and easy, other than the fact that I don't know how to access the property yet. It's an island unto itself. On Ground Station Pro, if I go in and I tap a new mission and I select a waypoint route, and I'm here at the office, so I want to tap, and somewhere in here is the center point to that property. So I'm going to tap that. There we go. So I have made my first waypoint. And on the right-hand side, we've got a couple of things going on here. I'll play with the all points versus each point afterward. What I'd really like to do now is pop in the correct latitude and longitude. So I am going to open up my interactive map here on Chrome, and I'm going to get it out of the way. So I'm just putting it over on my other screen, but now I can actually read these property corners. So I am taking a look, let's call it the northwest corner, and that's 34.588. So in my editing window down at that latitude and longitude that are down near the bottom, I'm going to start arrowing back. So I said that that was 34.5888. So that's 5.888. 5.9. We're really drilling down on this one. And I'm saying, okay, so that just moved it a little north. And then the next one, negative 112.429. So let's go ahead and start arrowing back on that. So 429.226. And I'm going to say okay to that. And check it out here. Let's zoom in. So I had put that waypoint somewhere over here to the east. So when I finish this off, it's put me very close to the golf course, to that particular hole. And that property does run right up against the golf course. Let's take a look at that. So that's that corner right there. So what's going to happen next is, looking at that, I'm actually going to slide myself over and let's put in our second waypoint. This is probably not the right location, but we're on that second waypoint now. And so we can go do the same exact thing down at the bottom here, latitude and longitude, bottom right, is that we can tap this one. And now I'm not going to tap all of these out because that'll drive you crazy and you'll never come back to my channel again. And we don't want that. So we'll just do this second example. So this one is 34.58. 589 274 274. Say okay to that. And so that has moved that a little north for me. So not a bad job tapping it out, but not perfect either. And the next one's going to be 112.426. 136. So you see the prep work that does happen at the office sometimes here. So there we go. There is the top border or boundary that we will be flying along. Now, as you can see, looking down, so just to the north of that area, like I said, these are two separate private parcels. I don't know who the landowners are. I can find out pretty quickly and easily. And like I said, right to the north of that, we've got this major construction area, so these little houses aren't there anymore. So access to this area, because I would like to be somewhere up here on the property, or at least on one of these boundaries, to keep the line of sight better for myself. Now, I could go through and tap the last couple, guessing, giving myself kind of a feel for it, but then going in and updating those waypoints on each one of them. So it takes a few minutes while you're at the office, and just because you plotted this out at the office doesn't mean you know everything about this site. And once again, I can't stress enough, a visit to the site beforehand goes a long way to save you a lot of headaches. Because one other thing that you probably cannot see on here on Ground Station Pro, you can barely make it out right in this area. You've got a little bit of lining there. Those are some very large power lines. So there are new power poles in there. So this satellite image is definitely out of date. Definitely out of date. And there are some pretty high power lines in here. They're not small power lines. They're these giant metal power lines that they've been putting in. And we also noted right down here in the southeast corner, right across from Watson Lake. So there's the parking area for Watson Lake. But if I were to launch from there and go across the highway, this is a very good distance. And secondly, the elevation gain is going to quickly take my line of sight out of there. So checking all these things out ahead of time, I know I've got some problems and issues, which is why I'll be talking to the realtor again to see if we've got some easier access points, which there's got to be. There's several construction vehicles in this area that are putting in new power poles and things. We've got one home to the south, and then we've got another church right there that's right along the highway. And so it looks like maybe there's some kind of access in here, but I don't know if that's completely private, blocked off. So these are the things that we'll be finding out about today. Whoops, and I accidentally created another waypoint. Now we can delete that waypoint as well if we want to. But there we go. So I still have some more information to gather on this before getting the flight done. Now let me take a look back over here. Can you cut and paste the latitude and longitude from the tax map into the flight planner? I have not found a way to do that, and I really wish that I could do that as well. It's a pain typing those out. I really don't like that little keypad is not too sensitive. Sometimes I have to double tap it. But if in your experimentation, Corey, you find that you can, let me know. And yes, I've fought with it for a while. So one of the reasons why also I'm doing Ground Station Pro here is because they have such an obvious and easy way to get access to the latitude and longitude for your waypoints. So that was one of the things that really appeals to me when doing raw land sites, which is something that I can't do on my map pilot. So this is why this is one of the applications I select for doing raw land, is so that I can, pop in that latitude and longitude information. So that's one of the biggest reasons. Otherwise, you know, I like features of some of the other ones as well. But as I've said before on these live streams and in other videos, there's no app maker that's perfect out there. They all have some really great features, and that's why you're probably going to need more than one application in your own toolkit when you're going out to do these things. So when I wrap this video up, I'm actually going to sit down for real and finish blocking this out and blocking out the other parcel. We're going to give a ring to the realtor to find out about access. And I will explain to the realtor because, you know, we had a nice conversation the other day. So she was aware of some issues for drone pilots, what we can and can't do. But I just don't want the drone going out of visual line of sight. And if need be, I can have a visual observer in some place, but I don't want to make them go marching off into the brushlands for several thousand feet. It just doesn't feel right to me crossing other private landowners' properties. And as I said, there were some no trespassing signs in the area at the end of the road near the synagogue and near this plumbing supply store. So we got a little more research today, and we'll get that research done. All right, everybody. I thought this would only go for 30 minutes. Sorry for dragging on longer. If you have any questions about this one and doing a layout like this, or finding out more about your own state and county tax maps, feel free to drop a note down in the comments and I'll help you out as best I can. I'm used to all the parcel map information here in Arizona. And like I said, every state and some counties are very different. Whenever I see that they're using ArcGIS, I get excited because I know I can get the information I need. I also know that, you know, in really super rural places, maybe like back in northern New Hampshire or something, they might not have tools like this available to you. So you really need to check in your area before you get that call for doing a raw land flight. So if you got a little time after today's live stream, go check it out. Check your area and see if all that information is going to be available to you when you get a client who needs a raw land flight like this. Well, all right, everyone. I hope you have a great start to the week. We're going to have some interesting announcements in the near future about some changes with some of the classes and just a couple things that we're going to be mixing up as we go into the fall season. So stay tuned to that. And for the folks on the Patreon channel, to check out a new class and also check out a new web development that's underway. So for the folks who subscribe to us through Patreon, we do some extra things for them. We do some private tutorials that aren't available here on YouTube. And we also ask them to be beta testers sometimes, which is part of what went out with yesterday. So if you're interested in becoming a patron, let me see on here. I think I've got it. Let's do that. Down in the right-hand corner, it's www.patreon.com/richcharpentier. So I'm keeping the self-promotion to a minimal today. Just wanted to show you all these raw land flights and how you can get them set up, and then make a brief mention that we are doing some neat things over on the Patreon channel. So if you've been interested, poke your head on over and you can take a look. And all right, there we go. Have an awesome start to the week. I'm going to go make some phone calls and see what we can do about gaining access to this property so that we can get some flights in soon. We'll see you again really soon. And I might be putting up one more new thing here on YouTube before next week's live stream. So keep your eyes on those reminders. If you haven't already, go ahead and like and subscribe down below, and then you'll be kept up to date with the latest videos here on channel. We'll see you again soon.